for the nice presentation. I have just one question. Maybe I will take you back to slide number 28, I think.
28?
Yeah, 28. On that slide, there are certain actors or certain group or people who are connected to the people within the hills and also to the external area. These are the people, I think, that are linking people that are not otherwise linked. So what type of people are these? Because identifying them would be beneficial for most policies.
So, maybe you can define the social tie in different terms. Right? So, if the social tie is, for example, say, transportation of goods, these would be the brokers who come to the community and buy the produce from the farmers and bring them outside and sell them. Or if it was the tie, if you look at family ties, so that would be the people whose children went to the city to get their education, or whose family member went outside of the hills for work, looking for a job. So, so these people link the community with the external world, which is beneficial for the community. But mostly, if you're probably familiar with the social network literature, such as the structural host theory by Bert, so these people who bridge the so-called structural host get the most advantage because they are like the link between the two worlds, and they can benefit from that. Yes, Paul?
Thank you. I just want to understand the question of the willingness to pay for the mobile phone. We have the question was whether you pay for 500 rupees.
Yeah.
But the initial cost was about 1,500 rupees?
Yes, yes.
How did you come up with 500? And
okay, so
just for interest's sake, I was looking at the investment of the tower, the mobile phone tower. Is it private or government? Because look at the investment, and if people cannot just go outside their area, from a private sector point of view, that doesn't make sense. The investment of having a tower. Is it government or private?
I'm don't want to lie now. I'm not really sure, but I think it is government because the government has quite large interest in providing the mobile location there and subsidized. And actually, during the time of the research, there was just new tower built in the area which covered, which maybe already covers the whole hills. But the 500 number is not random. During the time of the survey, the government announced plan to start subsidizing mobile phones, the gadget, and sell them at 500 rupees. Okay. So we asked, would you buy a phone for that price?
So you didn't use contingent valuation, sort of represent a product and then you scale down the prices until...
No. This was just like one little question, not many, and later we realized it actually it's quite an important question.
You need some help in Addis Ababa, so if there are help, your comments, you can... Are these things applicable? I think that's the question he wants to find out. The things he found out about the mobile phones and then about electricity, water, and those sort of things. If you have access to these things, do you command certain respect or certain authority in society? If it's applied in Manila, is it also applicable in Addis Ababa, for instance? These are some of the issues that we want to address.
But again, it's interesting because, I don't know, it feels like it's a one way of private pushing government controlled utilities to private sector. There might be slums, but looking at the Manila example, there are this group of people who are basically able to get this research from the government, and then they send down to the slums.
Actually, the water company there is private in Manila.
Ah.
Yeah. But again, they don't want to just give individual water connection to any random slum dweller. So, you have to kind of they have to trust that you'll pay them the money.
Yeah.
And so the people who got the connection and who could develop these systems needed also favors from the local officials so that they could do their work, but it's not public sector.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but I mean, the issue is start from public to private. Yes?
the water?
Oh, yeah. Is the water private? The water
Yes,
system?
yes.
Okay, completely.
Yes.
And the
So
system
in 1997, the whole system was privatized, and the network was split and given to two companies. So this is the map. They split the area into so-called two concession areas, and west zone was given to one bidder and east zone to the other bidder. That's 12 years ago, and the left one bankrupted, and the right one is where the case is. And it's private company, and they are not required to supply water to the slums. They have just coverage targets given in the concession agreement. And these coverage targets are easier to meet if you give one connection to one person who just distributes water to everyone else. And you don't have to bother with what's going on within the slum communities, because they don't want to enter there too much. And just let the people do it themselves. But the result is that the poorest pay the highest because they pay for the extra labor and investment of the community leaders. And in some cases, because they have the monopoly and the price is not regulated, what they charge is really, really high.
Peter, I think one of the reasons for having monopolies in utilities is that you don't want so many transmission lines going across and that sort of thing. The one for electricity, you had 4 suppliers, private suppliers. How were they transmitting the electricity to the users? So, would they be transmitted over transmission lines, and if so, how were the transmission lines connected in the community?
Yeah. I think that I completely agree with you that for infrastructure, you just the upfront investment is too high to have that competition. But it's easier for electricity than for water supply, because electricity is just a wire. Water supply is a pipe that you have to put to the ground. Also, I think that's why there is less difference in price in terms of electricity that we look at in the slum, because the people can tap their wire from neighboring communities. So the people who got the direct connection cannot overcharge so much, because there is sort of competition within the area. There's more people who have direct connection, and you can just get electricity from anywhere. But yeah, in case of water supply, it's just you just cannot have so many pipe providers within the same area.
Questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Hideki Watanabe. I was a representative of JICA Ethiopia. So I'm also the alumni of Tokyo University. I'm really pleased and happy to listen to your presentation. I have just one question. One thing is that impact of mobile phone on social networks, what you have presented in your presentation. Probably what you mentioned was a positive impact for the mobile phone network. I mean the reinforcement of the current networks. What do you think is a negative impact of the mobile phone on social networks? If you have any ideas, could you please explain this?
So, if you ask me about bringing mobile phones to a tribal village, my first natural impression would be why? destroy the culture and everything. But this master student who was working with research was like, I'm interested in mobile phones, okay, let's do mobile phones. And so, I think it depends partly on your values, or if you believe that local cultures should be preserved, then you shouldn't just try to give the mobile phones or TV or something like that. But on the other hand, you can say that there should be kind of racist view that everyone should have the same opportunity and then decide by themselves whether they want to change their lifestyle to the mainstream society. But so in terms of the positive effects, I think there were some, but not as much as is usually claimed. In terms of the negative effects, so the culture is one thing, but that's something that you cannot just, I think, objectively assess. That depends on your worldview or values. And second one that I can think of now is that the people use the mobile phones in non-productive ways, which could be considered by some that they just spend their very limited cash on chatting with friends, and it's questionable whether that's good value for them, good investment for them or not, but that's again up to them, I suppose.
Yes.
Well, actually, mine is not a question, actually. I am from UNICEF, and my colleague is from UNICEF as well. I don't know how we are invited to this seminar, because our line of business is different, but it's good to hear that you present this, and it's good to know that you are really working on the latest technologies that people are using. But we are sharing, I think, some common interests. We are using mobile phone to collect data currently. Maybe you are new to this country, but the problem could be shared with other countries as well. There is a difficulty in many of the countries, especially the developing countries, of getting the right information at the right time. And collecting data was one of the greatest challenges, I can say, of this government, and as well as for the international organizations. And if you remember, last year we had one nutrition emergency, drought emergency, and during that time we were supporting the Ethiopian government and the children with high nutritional value products like plumping, just to survive them from this drought emergency. And it was really quite a challenge for us to collect data from the community level at a real time or a speedy kind of data. And we introduced one mobile phone usage which people at the community level can easily communicate or send their appeal or their information at hand directly to our office, so that we can easily monitor how these products, the nutritional products, are flowing. We call it a rapid SMS. You mentioned that most of the community people are illiterate, and it was really difficult for you even to get this kind of thing down to the community level. So it's true in our case as well, but ours was different because we hired people in the different hotspot areas so that we can get data at a real time. And we gave them a mobile phone with a SIM card, and we installed one server in our office which has similar SIM card, and whenever they have the data, they can easily text so that this server can encode or change the data to reports, and anybody can read it as if it is written by a person. It has graphs, reports, names, data, numeric values, whatever. And this was really helpful for us because, as you know, emergency is emergency. You have to act, at real time. And at that time, those individuals were given some kind of codes for different parameters. Our department were really interested to know how much they received, how much in the stock, how much consumed, how was the balance, what was the location, how many or number of beneficiaries or something like that. So we were getting this information at a real time basis. So I just want to share our thoughts. And now the new development is the Ethiopian government really appreciated this. And maybe you know about the health extension workers, the famous health extension worker. And it's a flagship for our health ministry to implement this, and they are now recruiting nearly 15,000 health extension workers with different packages, nearly 15 packages. You name it, the maternal health follow-up, vaccination, sanitation, building, sanitary latrines, distribution of malaria net or something like that. So these different packages will be followed up or data collection will be done using this rapid SMS program. So now they are supporting the health extension workers in how to get this kind of knowledge, and they will give them the mobile phone with SIM card so that the ministry can get all the data from the community. I just want to share this.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's very interesting, cutting edge use of technology. So yeah, I would like to hear, it doesn't have to be just questions, but if you have any experience to share with us, please do.
I think when you said UNICEF, one of the things I have personally experienced is that when you have children in boarding school, it's easier to communicate to you over mobile phones so that you get to know their problems. You don't have to be visiting them all the time. They can tell you how they are doing. You can even arrange for extra classes for them to improve upon themselves. On the negative side is mobile phones and emails have also reduced writing. People don't write letters. They can just speak to you, so they finish, or send you an email, and that is it. And it is reducing people's ability to compose text, in English and the other things.
I think this may be especially the case in countries like India or Ethiopia, where the local writing system is different than English. Yeah. So that was, I think, one of the main reasons that even if the people were literate, they were not texting because it's very difficult to write the local symbols on the phone. I don't know if it is the case here.
As for testing, maybe the higher your education, the less you can test.
Well, I guess in your study again, it's sort of different from the case I've had, like in Malawi, in Tanzania, where farmers basically they want to buy a mobile for market purposes. They want to sell their products direct to the buyers. In your case, I guess you said you did find that they were using it for any productive activity, which is actually strange. So, okay, a farmer in the hill area will just buy a mobile just to talk to the neighboring farmer, which is okay. But maybe there was a need is that apart from the government trying to push mobile to the rural areas, there should be the proper need. How do you develop the smaller farmers to get access to the markets? I guess that's what is missing. And Kenya is a very good example, Uganda is a good example, Tanzania and Malawi, they're actually using mobiles to make farmers have access to markets.
But you were saying that the coverage is 3 kilometers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does it connect to others or just within 3 kilometers?
Only 3 kilometers.
Oh.
There was like a little center in the hills, that's where the bus comes, and there's a couple of shops. It's like a little governmental office, and a couple of villages there, and that's all that is covered.
That's the limitation.
That's the limitation. It's because the government think we have to push it.
Yeah.
Rural mobile network. That's what.
We have the last intervention. Okay. One thing I got from the seminar is that contacts or connections are very important, but diversify your contacts. Don't be friends to 20 bicycle owners, because you need more than just a bicycle. So, but contacts are very important. And I agree with you, the whole world we live in is all about contacts. If you have contacts, you can get to wherever you want to get to. It's very important. Networking. Peter, thank you very much. And this is a very interesting study. I hope you can do it in a few other African countries to get the diversity. I'm glad that in Ethiopia too there is a wide coverage of mobile phones. Even in remote places, you can still get access to mobile phones. So it's good that we try to compare what is happening in Asia with what is happening in Africa. But I would like you to maybe do it in more than one country so that the comparison can be good. The way Africa, the way it's expanding, you said it's expanded a lot in India, but it's also expanding a lot in Africa. This is one thing that is expanding like fire.
Yes.
And we need to really make good use of it and then see how it's done. But as Paul was saying, here it is used for very good things, getting technology, getting market prices, and selling them at good prices. So let's see how we can compare these things and then move ahead. We thank you for maybe making time for this seminar, and feel free to, next time when you are here, maybe update us on some of your findings.
I'm leaving tomorrow, but I want to come again. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you all for coming.